Hello everyone, this is your girl Lala and I'm back with another video. So today's video is going to be a review and recap on Ready to Love Season 6, The Reunion Part 1. Now let's get into the video. So first we start off with Tori and all of his kidney talk with the women on his dates where he's talking about kidneys being rearranged and all of this nonsense. I just needed Tori to stop during the season with it, and I really didn't need to see a clip of this at the reunion, but whatever. So then we move on into, the clips with the men who were feeding the women. We had Paul feeding Carmen a pickle. We had Clifton feeding Zakiya oysters. And then we had Wally just volunteering to Tina about how well endowed he was. And did y'all realize that Tina done showed up for the reunion? Ain't that a surprise? I didn't think that Tina would be there at the reunion. I really didn't. But she showed up. So now we get to this infamous truth or dare game from this season where Sabrina is, she takes the dare and it's to nibble on the ear of the person she has the strongest connection with. And so she goes and she nibbles on Demetrius's ear. And then also, I guess there was a kiss as well that had occurred. So in this scene, they're now talking about how, I guess everybody assumed that Tori would be the one who she would go and, nibble on the ear of because everyone assumed that her connection was with Tori. Well, her deepest connection was with Tori. So Sabrina says, well, listen, people assumed that was my connection. She like, listen, that's not what I told anybody. People assumed that was my connection. And so Joy does she puts Joy on blast and she lets it be known that Joy was one of the people who was vocal because during that truth or dare, Joy was like, I remember her like yelling out or she says Tori or something. And so Sabrina is addressing that part from when Joy says Tori and she's, I guess, implying about Joy being the one of the people who assumed and I guess put it out there with Tori. But, and of course, Joy gets amped and Joy is like, well, we all assumed and said from the woman's lounge conversations and things like that, saying that that's what actually Sabrina said. But Sabrina is like, no, that's not what I said because it was something about Sabrina making a comment about, I guess, somebody elevating or stepping up or something. And Sabrina says, no, I was talking about Demetrius. So they have a little tad bit back and forth for a hot second. But, in the end, Sabrina is like, basically like, listen, y'all assumed that wasn't, what, my top connection was. It was Demetrius. So she stands by that. Listen, Sabrina is standing by that. But Sabrina, I don't know about that because I think for her to be so dismissive of people's assumption that is what we saw. I think we all thought the same thing, that it would be Tori. And so we all were a little stunned by that, with it not being Tori. But I don't know, because then she goes into something about her and Demetrius had a conversation right before that happened. And that was her way of showing Demetrius that she was stepping up and that she was, I guess basically showing him that she heard him from the conversation he had just had. I don't know. This was just all like just a mess. Just a mess. So now we see Carmen with all her dates that she done went on. Paul, Eric, Clifton. Clifton was not here for them blue contacts at all. He was just not here for him. He done said something about she looking like baby Jesus or something. So anyway, so now we get to Donovan and Tommy's asking her, well, how did you know that Donovan was the one or whatever? And she goes into something about how it just feels natural. And I guess when they went away in the cabin, when the couples were at the cabin or whatever, that's when she knew. And, it just feels natural and, all of this. Okay, Carmen. If If you say so, Carmen. If you say so. Of course, Tommy turns around and he asks Donovan the same question, like, how did he know that Carmen was the one? So Donovan gets into the same thing about, at the getaway, at the cabin or whatever. That's when he knew. But then he goes into something about that he was using this getaway to, I guess, judge his connections or to make decisions or whatever, right? And so he's like, Tina wasn't there, so she was out of the picture. So if you say Tina wasn't there, and so that kind of leaves her out of picture, and you're not going to say, well, we all know he's not going to even say anything about Sabrina at this point because he's still salty. So it's like, so let me get this straight. It was like by default, Carmen, because she was the only one available there for you? I mean, that's what I'm getting. So anyway, so he then goes into, that's how he knew that, she was the one, or whatever. And I'm just like, it more so sounds like when you realize that it wasn't anything, well, not even that it wasn't anything. When you realize that Sabrina was not going to tell you what you wanted to hear as to where you were because you wanted to know if she was choosing you. And when she did not do that, and Tina did not show up to the cabin, basically it only left Carmen. So I'm like, boy, come on, stop it. Donovan, please stop. Donovan and Carmen, I just need them to stop. I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it. I'm just not. Now we get to Dakia and Eric and their date. Their dates rather. I really thought that Dakia and Eric were really, really going to work out. Like, they started so strong. I really thought that they were like going to be like a good fit. They had so much in common. Eric is now a chef, but he was I believe, systems engineer, which I believe Dakia has the same profession. I don't know. And they had a lot of chemistry. I really thought that they were going to be one of the couples to make it to the end, but you all know that did not happen. So we now move on into, Tommy asking about what happened. And so we know that when Eric left the show, we were told that, Dakia chose not to, pursue anything with him any longer, and that, he had did something that she was like offended by, something had happened. So tonight we get a little more information as to what happened. So it seems like, Eric seems to have touched her inappropriately. I don't know. I'm picking up, maybe he grabbed her behind, like he grabbed her ass in front of everybody or something of that sort. It seems as though it happens. And Tommy, he asked Eric, does he think that, maybe he misread where they were? And Eric is like, no. And so Eric is like saying, like, judging by the kiss. And I don't know, it almost seems like he was alluding to, like, I guess they've had more like physical interaction. So he didn't think, I guess, that it would be such a big deal. I don't know if the kids' issue was, also because they were in a public setting in front of the cast, and that, because, the show is still ongoing with, connections and things like that. I don't know if that was also like, the bigger thing for Dakia or not. But she more so was like shutting it down in the sense of like, no, you touched me inappropriately, and, I didn't like it, But with that part, though, I was a little confused with Dakia on that because, I don't know. Obviously we don't know how he touched her or whatever, but I did think that her and Eric were definitely like a lot, close. Eric even said something to the effect of like, well, no, I didn't think I misread it because, I thought that we were like on our way to like a relationship or whatever. And so, I don't know about all that, but, I did read them to kind of have a bit of a chemistry and connection and things like that. So I don't know. It just seems so odd that this one incident would have caused this whole big, this end for them, or whatever. But Zakia wasn't, she didn't like it. Whatever he did, she definitely didn't like it, which was also interesting because in the beginning, Zakia was leading a lot with like a sexual energy because, she made the comment to Demetrius about him having BDE. She also with Clifton when he fed her the oyster, I believe. I think that was the scene, and when she said something about she has like good gag reflexes. I mean, she gave off a bit of a sexual energy a lot. So, but I mean, she did. I noticed that was totally toned down a little later in the season. But I don't know. It just seemed so weird that her and Eric had this kind of falling out. But she did also say that she wanted an apology that night, and she would have been happy with an apology that night. But I'm sorry, not that night, right away or something, she says. And then he says, well, I text you that night, how much sooner could I have given an apology, and as she proceeded to go on and tell, explain, I should say, Eric started to get quite riled up. I mean, Eric was like, listen, I'm trying to be nice. I said, whoa, hold up, Eric. Eric done showed us a whole nother side. I said, well, wait, hold up. And I thought it was, and then he even, dropped the F-bomb, I believe, or whatever. And I'm just like, okay, Eric, it's not, pump your brakes. Because one thing I must say, Zakia has been a lady and has been extremely classy about it the whole time. She has not dragged Eric. She has not, talked badly about him. She just stated that something had happened that she felt disrespected. And if she feels disrespected, she feels disrespected. We can't get mad at her about that. People have the right to feel how they feel and handle things the way they want to handle them. She didn't want to proceed anymore with Eric. And I just think that as a man, I think Eric could have owned it a little more. Like, he apologized, but his apology to me was just like a slap in the face after you go on to, your level of nastiness with her. It's like, she wasn't giving you that energy. She wasn't giving you that tone. So it was no need for Eric to escalate the way he did. I think he just could have kept it at the apology and, and just listen, just say you misread it and keep it pushing. Even if you feel like, well, I thought we were closer than that or I didn't. Just for the sake of just a level of adult, of just being an adult and gracefully just bowing out to it. Eric could have just kind of just been like, I apologize. And hey, I misread things and left it at that. I don't think it was called for it to escalate the way it did, but it did. So now we get to Sabrina and like all of her connections. And we're showing just Sabrina had, her connection with Tori, her connection with Demetrius, and her connection with Donovan. And so on one of the side clips where she had went on a date with Donovan, Sabrina says after a few drinks, she would have messed around, like she would mess around and sleep with Donovan. I said, what? I didn't know the connection was that strong. But, back on one of my other videos, I did mention when Sabrina and Donovan went on that date, I really, really did like Sabrina and Donovan together. I think out of all of the guys this season out of all the guys that we saw Sabrina with, I actually got to the point where I really liked her and Donovan. And I was like, almost just like Demetrius who. However, I did see the change in Donovan when it seemed like, Donovan didn't get what he wanted. And he just seems like a little spoiled brat. He just seems like one of those guys who doesn't want to hear no and is just very immature, all of that. Anyway, I talk about that in another video, from their date when Sabrina eliminates herself. And so I get into that of my thoughts with Donovan. So moving on past that, Sabrina then drops a bomb, because Sabrina is like, well, Donovan said that if he started the process earlier, he would have been with somebody else. And they're like, well, would have been with somebody else who? And before you know it, they're like, Joy. I said, oh no, Donovan, Donovan, woo boy, I tell you. And so Donovan tries to then kind of call Sabrina out as if she's lying. Well, hold up. Dakia and Precious jump right on that to co-sign. Like, listen, Dakia said he told me that too. And then Precious jumped in. Yeah, he told me that too. Donovan said to Precious, you wasn't even here long enough for you to know anything. Donovan is so shady. Donovan is so shady and catty. I cannot. So he straight shaded her like, you wasn't even here long enough. What you talking about, Precious? But let me tell you something. Precious came with some tea, okay? She came with the tea. Whatever time Precious was there, it was enough time for her to get a whole bunch of tea and to be mingled up in a whole bunch of stuff, okay? But anyway, and so now him and Precious, they're getting into it, and, they're going back and forth. And I mean, Precious is hot, and Precious is letting him have it. Donovan makes some little golden. Why Donovan? He should never went there. Why Donovan make the little golden girl comment or something like that? Precious called them all time to, played out or something or whatever she said. And I mean, they were just like going back and forth. I said, wow, not Precious and Donovan into it. But let me tell you something. Donovan is real catty. Donovan is extremely, extremely catty. He wants to go toe to toe with women, and he wants to let women have it. Red flag. So now Tommy's bringing Tori in, asking Tori how he felt about, the kiss and all. And so Tori, he's like, well, me and Sabrina had an understanding. And, then Tori gets to the point where he's just like, well, he's like, I don't want anybody that doesn't want me. And I'm glad you don't, Tori, because you should have been read the signs and let Sabrina, he should have already pursued other connections after Sabrina nibbled on Demetrius' ear, because, I mean, I think at that point, it was kind of clear, I think, that Sabrina was now basically torn between Demetrius and Donovan. I don't think there was ever any physical attraction with Tori. I think it was just that Tori was one of those guys that was showing up in the process, and he was making a lot of initiative, and he was giving her that attention, and he was pursuing her. I think that's the only thing that really gave Tori that, was giving him, was keeping him, with this connection with her. I think, that was it. I don't think it was anything other than that. I don't think she had a actual, romantic and, physical connection and things like that with Tori. I think it was always with Demetrius. And as we see and find out, it was a little, more going on, with Donovan, because now we get to the point where Tommy is asking Sabrina about, not going to meet his family, and asking Demetrius how he felt about that and things like that. But, I'm sorry, before we get there, it gets revealed that, Tommy asks something where Sabrina says that Demetrius was getting information, or had gotten information from somebody about her, that he was like kind of feeling some type of way about, but he didn't discuss it with her. So come to find out, Donovan told Demetrius about him and Sabrina's, about these kisses or whatever that had occurred off camera. You can't tell me that Donovan did not do that to be spiteful. Like I said, Donovan is like, I don't know. Donovan has some interesting catty and some weird tendencies, because as a man, why are you going to another man to tell him about what it is that you did with her or whatever, when you know that these two have a connection? And I think it was more so, it was like, to me, I think it was more so like to put Sabrina on blast. Like, oh, you think you guys have, or you think you have this great connection with her, or she's nibbling in your ear. Well, she's kissing me behind the scenes and things like that. And my thing is this, at the end of the day, however you feel about it, Like, I don't know. I just feel like as a man, why are you going to another man to tell him this? If you were so affected by it, or that's what made you feel like you didn't want to pursue her anymore, cool, move on. But what need was there to tell Demetrius? The only thing that you could possibly have wanted was to cause a rift between them two. What else could it have been? Because you could have just moved on if that was the case. So I don't know. I just think it's very clear that Donovan purposely set out to do that, and he ends up accomplishing that, because come to find out, Sabrina and Demetrius, that's what caused that, that little, that tension and things like that we saw play out later on between them. And Sabrina says, that was part of the reason why she didn't want to meet his family, because she said that Demetrius had told her Demetrius had a conversation with his mother about the whole thing that had happened. And like right after that is when, it was the whole meet your family thing. And so Sabrina's like, why would I want to meet your family now, meet your mom after you just told her, this whole situation. And now right after this, I'm supposed to meet your mother or whatever. So, I mean, I feel Sabrina on that. And I feel any of them on not wanting to meet the family. I don't think that, because think about this. In real life, are we bringing people home to meet our family in 2 months? Are we really doing this? So I just think this whole thing that, with the whole pressure and this whole, when Tommy even said to Demetrius, a couple of episodes ago about when Sabrina didn't want to meet the family, that would, that would kind of be a big deal for me or whatever. And I'm just like, come on now, we're not making sense. We're really not, because no one besides Clifton and Joy has a real so-called established relationship or has really, really locked anything down. Because we know Carmen and that damn Donovan, we know that they ain't going nowhere. I'm surprised to see them both at the reunion together still. But of course, then again, we know Donovan and his shady cattiness. We know he's gonna be there with Carmen. Why? Because he most likely wants to just dig it in Sabrina's face that he's with Carmen just to show her, because she didn't tell him what he wanted to hear, which was he was her number one. So there it is. So Demetrius does say that, he was hurt by, he was a little hurt by hearing it from Donovan instead of Sabrina about the kiss. And my thing is that Demetrius, why aren't you questioning why you heard it from Donovan? I just think that, I think it was a very manipulative move on Donovan's end, and I think it worked. I think it worked, and I think that I don't think Demetrius should have allowed that to come between them, because at the end of the day, it was two different times where Sabrina showed that Demetrius was her top. So even with these other connections, she still continued to show that Demetrius was her top connection. So with that being the case, I think that she should have continued. I think Demetrius should have, just should have continued on and not let Donovan get in the way of that. And I think he should have addressed it with her. If you need to go and talk to your mother about it and you feel some type of way about it, why not address it with Sabrina? I don't know. I just think it's just some of the, just some of the drama that is occurring between these grown people at this age and this stage in dating is like, come on, can we communicate it all? So I don't know. Now, Tommy asked Sabrina, what would you do differently, or, what would you have done differently? And so Sabrina does say she would have told Demetrius, but then she says, you know what? I probably wouldn't have even done it. And then she's like, listen, it was a good kiss, but it wasn't worth all the trouble. I said, wow. I really think that Sabrina, I don't know. I think Sabrina it might have been more of a chemistry type of attraction going on with her and Donovan, because I find it interesting. Demetrius was her top connection, and she's expressed that and she showed that. But she wasn't on those side clips talking about after a few drinks that she would have slept with Demetrius. I was surprised to hear that I was surprised to hear her say that about Donovan, because this is the thing. It's so much that we don't see. And so these little snippets and what's produced and what plays out for us, we really never know. We don't ever really see the full story. So we think things are so much different than what they are a lot of times, or there's so much more backstory that we don't know about. And we're wondering, well, why did this person do this? So why did this person act like this? And sometimes it's like, we don't see it because we only see what production chooses to show us, right? So now we get to Laverne and all of his dates. So all the women all pretty much had the same idea about Laverne in regards to his he was very full of himself. So it seems like none of his dates were really going well except, with Ace, and he seemed to have connected with Ace. But Laverne is definitely full of himself. So Tommy asked Laverne, well, when do you think that, you cross over, where confidence crosses over to cockiness? And Laverne, Lord have mercy, Laverne is like something about, I don't think it ever does. And, he goes into, we are the salt and the light of the earth. God don't make no junk. He accepts his awesomeness. Some people don't. He said, talk to yourself and God about that. You know what, Laverne? I'm through. Laverne, I am through. I have never seen somebody be so arrogant and cocky and still so unaware at the same time of their arrogance and cockiness. I'm gonna need you to just own it. Stop with this whole that I'm so confident. No, you are arrogant and cocky, and just accept that and move on. And when these women are calling you a narcissist, or these women are talking about, how you're full of yourself and all of these other things, where are they lying at? Where? Like, where are they lying at? And you talking about these women ain't get a chance to know me. These women that are saying this don't even know my middle name. Don't nobody on there know nobody's middle name. But guess what? They all are getting to know each other, and they still have formed an opinion based off of what they have seen and what the person has showed. And when it comes to you, all the women are seeing is cockiness and arrogance. That's all they're seeing. Now, Precious just put it out there like it's just pure narcissism. Precious is like, he's just narcissistic, is what it is. But, you can't have all of these women have the same type of, feelings about you, and you just think that, like, it's not you, or that, you're not giving this off. And it's not about confidence, because with Laverne, it's beyond. That's not confidence. This is something else that is beyond. So then we get on to, Tommy talks about, Ace and Laverne. We move on from there, and we find out that, Ace and Laverne, I guess they tried to, let's backtrack. Let's go back a little bit, because so Laverne had gotten, told he wasn't ready to love. He was off the show. And so shortly after, Ace decided to leave as well, because Laverne was her connection. So Tommy's like, they didn't make a connection on the show because Laverne left, but, what about after the show, or something about, I guess they set something up for them, whatever, something, however it goes. So come to find out, Ace and Laverne did pursue something after after he was eliminated or whatever. They did pursue something. And so, Laverne, Ace is being all nice about it, and she's just like, oh, it just didn't work out. It wasn't, what, I needed, whatever she said or whatever, whatever, her expectations were more, whatever it was, but it didn't work out. And so, of course, in Tommy's fashion, he's trying to dig to get a little more out of Ace. And so, she gets to the point where basically it basically seems that Laverne wanted to be chased, and Ace is like, I'm not here for it. I'm not doing that. Like, I'm not doing that, is what it pretty much seems, is what happened with Ace and Laverne. Now, Laverne did fess up to the fact of saying that, he did feel like it was because of him, and he was what caused it. And Tommy asked Ace if she would be interested, or would she be open, I guess, to like giving another try, whatever. And she does her pause and does her little oh my god, and then she says to be determined. But let me tell you something, Ace, it ain't nothing to be determined. Leave Laverne where you met him, on that Ready to Love, or in that Ready to Love set. Leave him right there, because Laverne is in love with Laverne. So, don't waste your time with that. Don't. I mean, he is too into himself, I think, to be with anyone, unless you are going to be a woman that is okay with that is okay with a man who is so self-absorbed and who is so arrogant. Other than that, girl, listen, leave him where he is, okay? Leave him. So now we get to the messiest part of the night that we could possibly get to. Child, they done took me back to elementary school with a phone, with a whole game of telephone and a whole nine. So we get to where Laverne is saying about how he got word from Ace, that Precious, has said, or that Precious, it was so all over the place. I just was like, okay, this is a mess. We don't have grown people on here with this. But anyway, so supposedly, he said that he had gotten word that, Sabrina and Carmen, and Tina, they were all, coming up with this game plan to get, the couples eliminated and things, the couples eliminated or something. And then it turned into Precious is like, no, it didn't come from her. It was just a mess. This was just like a hot mess. I just really wish that, we could have did without this part. It was just so juvenile to me that it was like, it was just ridiculous. I don't know, who did what or who's lying. Precious starts to say, I guess in the next, on the next episode, part 2 of the reunion, Carmen's gonna, I guess, make her statement in regards to, because Precious said that Carmen, had called her. Carmen is like, no, I didn't. So now it seems like Carmen and Precious are gonna go back and forth, I guess, about that. But I mean, come on. It was just like, come on. Please, I could have did without that. And I'm just like, wow, Precious was on this show for a hot second. But let me tell you, she ain't make a connection. She ain't stay in the show long. But what she did do was show up at this reunion. She showed up at this reunion and she showed out. Okay? Carmen showed up and showed out. I'm sorry. Precious showed up and showed out at this reunion. That's what she did. I mean, initially I forgot all about Precious. But I mean, listen, I guess she said, I didn't get time, on this season. But I'm definitely going, I'm going to make a mark in this reunion. And that's what she did, because all of the hot mess came, straight from Precious. It came straight from her. And as you see, it looks like she's going to be into it with Demetrius and I guess with Carmen possibly, I guess, next week on the second party reunion. So I'm just like, all right, I'll be watching, I guess I'm here for it. And so on another note, I thought getting to how the ladies looked, I thought Zakiya looked very pretty at the reunion. I thought she looked very pretty, very nice. I liked her dress, and I thought she looked really good. I thought Sabrina looked really pretty. You know, in the face, her hair and her makeup and things like that. She looked very pretty because she's normally we don't see Sabrina, you know, made up that much with makeup and things like that. So she definitely looked very pretty at the reunion. But that's about it. I mean, Joy got a little glammed up. I can't really recall what Joy's outfit looked like. I don't really recall. And from my recollection, I didn't really think that any of the women looked you know, I mean, I don't think it was any outfits or anything that really like just stood out, like, you know, anything that was like, oh wow, that was like really nice, or, you know, whatever. I mean, they all looked nice for the most part, but you know, it wasn't, you know, it's definitely not like a Real Housewives of Atlanta, or, you know, Real Housewives of Potomac or basketball. Like, it's definitely not one of those type of reunion, you know, where, well, it's not one of those type of reunions where they get that glammed to a whole nother level and all of that. So, but anyway, that's it for the Ready to Love part 1 of the reunion for season 6. So until next time, toodles.